goes faster and faster.
Welcome back to With Antone MotoGP. The 2026 MotoGP Championship table is closer than ever. But watch the racing and something doesn't look close at all. The points are tight, we agree, but the bikes and the racing are not that close. So today I'm going to ask the question, why is the 2026 MotoGP Championship close on paper but wide on the track? And I'm talking about racing on the track. Where are the battles? Is it the riders managing the season? Is it the bikes becoming too close? Or have the bikes simply outgrown the circuits they race on? Or is there something else going on? Okay, let's start with the riders and the riders managing the season. This is a very long championship. You've got 22 Grand Prix, 22 sprints, a huge amount of travel, and an enormous physical punishment. And when the championship is close, every mistake becomes more expensive. A crash isn't necessarily just a lost race. It can mean an injury, and an injury can mean missing 1, 2, or 3 Grand Prix. And suddenly, one aggressive move can cost you far more than the points from that position that you were fighting for. Look at Marc Marquez's situation. When you're carrying an injury, the calculations change. It's no longer, can I pass him? It's, is passing him worth the risk? And it's, should I fight back after he's just passed me? And that's important because consistency becomes incredibly valuable. Even Jorge Martin in a recent interview said he doesn't need to win every race. And that can help produce a championship that is close in points, but without producing constant wheel-to-wheel racing that we all love. And then we have the bikes. And this is where things get really interesting because modern MotoGP bikes are extraordinary in their design. They're fast, they're sophisticated, and they generate incredible aerodynamic performance. But here's the question. Have we made the MotoGP bike better at going fast than it is at racing another MotoGP bike? Okay, Aero and dirty air. The bike in front at the moment is creating a lot of disturbance. The rider behind has to deal with this disturbance, and that affects the front tyre. It affects the confidence and behaviour of the bike. The problem when you're trying to overtake starts several corners before you actually overtake. You don't need a huge gap to stop an overtake. You just need enough of a gap to prevent the rider behind taking over your position. Okay, the Michelin front tyre, and this is where the tyre becomes part of this lack of exciting racing. We only need to look at the development of the front tyre and you can see, as we've discussed, it has not kept pace with the demands of the modern MotoGP Aero bike. And then we get the tyre pressure rule. We get crazy situations where the riders can be leading and they have to drop back behind another rider to generate more tyre pressure. It's the only motorsport I know where leading is not an advantage. Or even worse, where we get the riders standing on the podium at the end of the Grand Prix only to be told that they've been regulated due to the tyre pressure penalty. What about braking and acceleration? You've got incredible braking and incredible acceleration performance. These modern MotoGP bikes are exceptionally stable under braking, almost too stable. But overtaking isn't about stopping just your own bike, it's about stopping your bike while positioning it alongside the person you're chasing. And if you can't stay close through the preceding corners because of the dirty air, then the braking zone isn't really an overtaking opportunity anymore. And of course, acceleration. You might get alongside a rider, but if they get better drive out of the corner, they've all got ride height devices, they're all exiting perfectly, the gap can open up again and you can't actually catch them. So overtaking becomes highly dependent on getting an entire sequence of corners right. You can't just stick it up the inside of someone. You can't aggressively just do that anymore. Finally, I want to talk about the bikes, how they've outgrown some of the great tracks that we've been racing on for decades. I think this gets a little bit overlooked, but the problem is not the tracks. The problem is that the bikes have moved on. Many of the circuits were designed on a very different generation of motorcycle. Traditional bikes, no aero, no sophisticated ride height, nothing like the electronic management that we have on bikes today. Those bikes, they used to slide around, you remember that? They used to pop wheelies, they had different braking characteristics, and crucially, they created more opportunities for riders to actually attack. Now compare that to the modern MotoGP bike. It's incredibly stable, incredibly fast, and increasingly dependent on aerodynamic performance to make the bike work. The bike has just evolved further and farther than any of the circuits. But the tracks, they haven't evolved. They've got physical restrictions like runoff areas. And I think that's where we've lost something really important, because a circuit can still produce an incredible lap time. It can be spectacular. It can be physically demanding, but that doesn't mean it produces great racing. If the modern MotoGP bike can carry enormous speeds through a corner, brake later, and follow a very precise racing line, where does the rider behind get a chance to make a difference? And that's the issue. You know, we've designed the modern MotoGP bike to be incredibly efficient at going around the circuit, but the circuit was not designed around these types of motorcycles. And that's why perhaps some of those old spectacular battles are becoming harder to reproduce, something we need to think about. Think about down at Phillip Island. It's one of the most incredible circuits. It's one of the circuits when you could run without aero, and that's why we get such a close, exciting racing. So we need to recognize something here about tracks. The bikes have evolved too fast for the tracks to keep up. And maybe that's one reason that MotoGP can still be incredibly fast, incredibly competitive, but sometimes just not as exciting to watch one bike go up against another bike. Okay, maybe that's why the championship this year feels so strange, because competitive doesn't mean close racing. So what do you think? Is the 26 championship actually as competitive as the standings suggest? Do you miss those classic close races and the spectacle that used to be MotoGP racing? And are we watching a championship this year where the competition is happening more on the points table than it is on the track? Because if MotoGP is genuinely this close, why does it feel and look so far apart on the track? That's the question. And as always, it's data, not noise. Anyway, thanks for watching this week. I really appreciate it. Why not drop us a subscription if you're new, give us a like and share the video around. Okay, look forward to talking to you again real soon. Okay, bye for now.